No relation can be traced between the operative Masons of this class and the speculative Masons who have represented Freemasonry since the beginning of the 18th century. The operative Masons, between whom and the modern Freemasons there is a relation of succession, were a higher class of artists. They were possessed of secrets connected with peculiar skill in their craft. But above all, they were distinguished for the adoption of what might, in our modern phrase, be called the cooperative principle in the practice of their craft. Perhaps it may more properly be called a principle of sodality. It was shown in the formation of a company, a society, a guild, a corporation, or a confraternity. Call it by what name you please, in which there was an association of skill, of labor, and of interests. This principle has been called the guild spirit, and it is this spirit which constitutes the essential characteristic of the Masonic institution. If we propose to establish a chain of historical continuity which shall extend from the first appearance of any association in which the origin of modern Freemasonry is sought to be found, to the present day, when the institution has assumed its well-recognized form, there are two elements which must be well marked in every link of the chain. In the first place, there must be an operative element. Freemasonry can be traced only to an association of builders or architects. Every ceremony in the ritual, every symbol in the philosophy of speculative Freemasonry indicates, nay, positively proves, that it has been derived from and is closely connected with the art of building. The first Freemasons were builders. They could have been nothing else. To seek for them in a mystical religious association as the ancient pagan mysteries, or in an institution of chivalry as in the Knights of the Crusades, would be a vain and unprofitable task. As well might one look for the birthplace of the eagle in the egg of the crow, as to attempt to trace the origin of Freemasonry to anything other than an association of builders. In the second place, there must be a guild spirit. The builders who have come together must not have associated temporarily for the mere purpose of accomplishing a certain task, each man wholly independent of the others, and arbitrarily exercising only his own skill. There must be a permanent organization, a community of interest, a division of labor, a spirit of fraternity, an organization looking beyond the present moment. A certain number of masons brought together to construct an edifice, who after its construction would be ready to disperse, each mason on his own footing to seek fresh employment under new masters and with new companions, could never, under such circumstances, be concentrated into such organizations as would, in the lapse of time, give rise to the lodges of modern speculative Freemasons. The hypothesis, then, which is advanced in the present work, and on which its authentic historical part is constructed, is that there was from the earliest days of Rome an organization of workmen under the name of the Collegium Artificum, or Collegium Fabrorum, that is, the College of Artificers, or the College of Workmen. That this college consisted of builders and architects, that it was regularly organized into an association, which was marked with all the peculiarities that afterward distinguished the guilds or incorporations of the Middle Ages. That this college, flourishing greatly under the later empire, sent its members, imbued with the skill in architecture and the spirit of confraternity which they had acquired in the home organization, into the various provinces which the Roman legions penetrated and conquered. And finally, that in all these provinces, but principally in northern Italy, in Gaul, and in Britain, they established similar colleges or associations in which they imparted to the natives their knowledge of the art of building and impressed them with their spirit of fraternal cooperation in labor. From these colleges of workmen sprang in the course of time, and after the fall of the empire and the transition of the provinces into independent and sovereign states, organizations of builders, of masons, and architects, when Italy assumed the name and title of traveling Freemasons, in Gaul that of the Mistresses des Maçons, in Germany that of the Steinmetzen, in England that of the guilds and companies, and in Scotland that of the lodges and incorporations. All these were associations of builders and architects who were bound together by regulations which were very similar to and evidently derived from those by which the Roman colleges had been governed, with others suggested by change of conditions and circumstances. The associations, though mainly made up of professional workmen, sometimes admitted, as the Roman colleges had done, non-professionals, men of wealth, distinction, or learning into their ranks as honorary members. About the close of the 17th century, the number of these non-professional members was greatly increased, which fact must have produced a gradual and growing influence on the organizations. Finally, during the second decade of the 18th century, these non-professional members completely changed the character of the Masonic organizations known at that time under the name of lodges. The operative element was entirely eliminated from them, and the lodges became no longer companies of builders, but fraternities of speculative philosophers. The new institution of speculative Freemasonry retained no other connection with or relation to the operative organization than the memory of its descent and the preservation of the technical language and the tools of the art, all of which were, however, subjected to new and symbolic interpretations. This transition of the operative into the speculative organizations occurred in London in the year 1717, at which time the Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons was established. From England, the change passed over into other countries, and lodges were everywhere instituted under the authority of the Grand Lodge of London. The history of Freemasonry from that time is to be found in the recorded annals of the various lodges and grand lodges which sprung up in the course of time from the parent stem, the common mother of all the speculative lodges of the world. Scotland might seem at first to be an exception to this cosmopolitan maternity, but though the growth of the speculative out of the operative element was there apparently an independent act of transition, yet it cannot be denied that the influence of the English society was deeply felt in the sister kingdom and exhibited especially in the adoption of the 3 degrees, in the organization of the Grand Lodge on a similar model, and in the establishment of the office of Grand Master, a title of entirely modern and English origin. Such is the plan of the history that has been pursued in the present work, a plan which materially and essentially differs from that of any preceding writer. Iconoclasts have composed monographs in which they have attacked particular fallacies and denounced special forgeries, but the history of Masonry as a whole has not before been written with the same spirit of candor that has been or should always be exercised in the composition of history. Doubtless, the well settled and carefully nourished prejudices of some will be shocked by any attempt to expose the fallacies and falsehoods which have too long tarnished the annals of Freemasonry, but such an attempt cannot, if it be successfully pursued, but command the approval of all who believe with Cicero that history is the witness of time, the light of truth, and the life of memory.